Welcome to or welcome back to Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin, and today we're doing the second of our past, present, and future mediacasts, where we cover what we've done, what's current, and what we'll be doing over the next little while. So we actually did the first of these past, present, and future media casts in the spring of 2023, and we mostly kept to that schedule and actually still are keeping to it because some of what we said there overlaps with what we'll say here. So in terms of the past, we won't go through everything we have done because we did that in the spring 2023 version. Some of it is outdated by now and some of it is still relevant. And perhaps it's enough to say that we've come full circle. Our media cast started with the 2020 Euro Cup, which, if you recall, took place in the summer of 2021. And this podcast will basically end with our intention to do the 2024 Euro Cup. Still relevant in the past episodes are the 2023 African Cup qualifying. That was actually Series 9, and it ended in September of 2023. And I like that series because it covers some of the weaker teams in Africa that don't make it to the podcast we do for the African Cup. Also relevant is Euro 2024 qualifying, which is close to wrapping up at the time of this recording. I'm recording here just before the October international break. So that would be, what is it today, October 11th. And the Euro qualifying wraps up in November. So one last note about the past podcasts, which are still available, is that even though they may be a bit out of date, they're still useful if you want to get to know a team and their players. So we will be updating them as time goes. But we've already covered many of the teams in each region and even covered some of the bigger teams twice. For example, those that reached the World Cup. And we've covered the players for a lot of teams too. So you can always go back to the last version that we did and it's not too outdated. All right, well, moving on to current media casts, we're still covering some regional cups. So actually, even though there is some overlap with what we call future podcasts, we're considering the regional cups as present and the World Cup qualifying as future. So let's deal with the present podcast or the present media cast. The 2023 Asian Cup will take place in January 2024. And the 2023 African Cup is also scheduled for January 2024. So Series 21 is for the Asian Cup. And we have already recorded, actually, the media cast for the team and group ones. And we have both a long and short version. So we'll be releasing those soon in mid-October. And then a series on the players will follow in late October or early November. And we may do an update podcast in late December if there's enough new information that we feel that we need to add. And sorry, I just want to clarify that series number for the Asian Cup is, sorry, I said Series 21, but it's actually Series 19. So all of the parts of that series will be Series 19. So I'll just add here, we did a bit of renumbering because we were calling one series, say Series 5 for the teams and Series 6 for the players. But now we're just going to have one series number for the whole tournament. Anyway, for the African Cup, which is also in January 2024, we're going to release a teams and groups edition in late or mid to late November and a players edition in early to mid December. And for that series, we're actually contemplating a shorter version because we just did a fairly thorough examination of that one when they played the 2021 African Cup in January of 2022. So there are teams and player podcasts for 24 teams there. And furthermore, recent podcasts for many of those teams again. When we did African Cup qualifying, which was Series 14. And actually, some of the big teams we covered again in World Cup qualifying at the end of 2022. Anyway, the African Cup 2023, played in 2024, will be Series 20. And then the last of the regional tournaments is the 2024 Euro Cup. So again, we're considering that current, even though it'll actually be done quite a bit after we've gotten into World Cup qualifying. So we will be doing a complete series on that one, teams, groups and players in full and short versions. But that's going to be quite a bit later in May and June 2024. So that is going to be Series 25. That number itself suggests that we will be doing some stuff before that. And sure enough, we move on to the future, which is World Cup qualifying. But for some regions, it starts well before the Euro Cup will take place. So Series 21 covers the Asian World Cup qualifying, and the preliminary rounds for that start very early. In fact, they start right away here in in October 2023. So we will be releasing that very shortly. And then that's round 1, and round 2 begins in November. But we sometimes like a couple of games to be played before we begin coverage, especially if it's a big round involving a lot of teams. So we are planning coverage of round 2 of Asian Cup 2026 World Cup qualifying in February and March 2024. But both of those rounds will be considered Series 21. And actually, Asia is not the first team to begin qualifying for the 2026 World Cup. The South American region with their Big Ten team group is. So we said actually we might do coverage this fall. But we do like to have some games played before we cover big groups. And we also need to manage our time. So we're putting off coverage of the big South American group until February to March 2024. And that is going to be Series 22. 2026 World Cup qualifying for Africa begins in November of 2023. But again, we'll examine it after the initial games are played, and that one will also come out in February to March 2024, and that African qualifying will be Series 23. 2026 World Cup qualifying in CONCACAF and in UEFA both begin in March 2024. CONCACAF has 3 rounds actually, and Series 24 will begin coverage of that in February and March 2024. In that case, because it is rounds of teams that'll get knocked out, we want to do that before any of the games are played. So we will do round 1 in February to March 2024, and then round 2, which it's going to take place in June. We will do coverage on that in May 2024. So all of those rounds will be part of a series number 24. Series 25, as we mentioned before, is the Euro Cup, which we consider a current series because it's part of the Regional Cup. So continuing with future series, UEFA qualifying is just one big round. So we're going to let a few of those games be played. That starts in March, but we're going to provide coverage in July 2024. And part of our reason for doing that is we want to see how teams do in the Euro Cup, which is in June. So look out for Series 2026 UEFA World Cup qualifying coverage in July of 2024. And finally, we're going to touch on the only region that we haven't done, which is the OFC, or the Oceanic region. And their qualifying for World Cup 2026 begins in September 2024. And it's also in rounds, so we want to do it before the games begin. So that is going to be Series 27, and you can expect to get that in August of 2024. All right, well, that's it for now, our past, present, and future.